Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Hoop and Harm. As always, I am your host, Brendan, and joining us is the victorious Nolan. His New York Knicks, because you started this podcast, I'm going to give you all the credit in the world, have moved on to someplace they haven't been in a very long time. They are now into the Eastern Conference Finals, and they beat a team that nobody thought they could, including us, the way they were playing. And not only that, they dismantled them after some injuries and some issues with Boston. You got to be overjoyed.
I'm very much through the roof. I mean, Brendan, I was a senior in high school the last time the Knicks were in an Eastern Conference final. It really, it really became hard to believe. And, even last year they had a team I thought had a chance to be in the Eastern Conference Finals, and something just went wrong, and it just felt like it wasn't going to happen. So, of course, now I just want to see them take it as far as they can. But I was on cloud nine on the other night when they clinched.
I was right there with you. I thought at halftime it looked really promising. I also, as I was watching this game, it just felt like it was just they just had more of the tank. A similar feeling about OKC, them finishing off Denver. It just felt like there was a lot more in the tank for OKC than Denver. I didn't expect to say that about the Knicks. I will say that. I didn't think the Knicks were going to have more in the tank when it came down to it. We were worried about injuries. We were worried about depth. We were worried about lineups. The Knicks came to play, and I felt they just overpowered them. And what a trade, and what an offseason trade. We have two teams in the Eastern Conference and Western Conference Finals that made a trade in the offseason that was covered. Everyone was like, well, we'll see. Well, both those teams got much better with the trade. Big Cat gets to go to his original position and not have to be a 4. Julius Randle can be a pure 4 and never have to worry about centers, and both have excelled in the playoffs. It would be fascinating to see these two teams face each other, but that's why we're here. And we're going to start off with the Eastern Conference Finals, which for the Knicks and Indiana Pacers fan, this is a rematch of last year, where Indiana beat the Knicks, and Knicks had home court advantage. The Knicks were the higher seed, and they lost in 7. So now we go to this series, a lot more on the line, go into the championship, Eastern Conference trophies, all the works. Knicks have home field advantage for this series like they did last year. What do you see, and how do you feel going into this series? Not only as a Knicks fan, but as like an outside, as from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I try to remove my bias, my fandom from it. But I don't think last year, I think Indiana winning was a surprise last year. I think most people would have said that. And I think most honest people would say that, with the Knicks playing without Randall, with the Knicks playing, without Mitchell Robinson, with the Knicks playing, halfway through that series without OG Anunoby, and Josh Hart, having a rib injury, and Brunson having an ankle injury, the whole deal. Like, I think an objective fan can say, that we didn't get what we could have gotten that series. And that's not to take anything away from what Indiana did last year, because I thought they were a good team last year. I just didn't think they were a great one. And I didn't think, I think if we had gotten a fully healthy lineup on both sides, I think it would have been a different outcome. That being said, this year, I do not believe that Indiana is the inferior team. I don't believe even that, I think it's close. I think it's really close. I think Indiana, I've been saying it. You can go back and look at the older episodes. Indiana's been ascending to me since after the All-Star break. They've just been slowly climbing, and we're shocked that it's not Cleveland and Boston for sure. But if you've been paying attention, it shouldn't be all that surprising, especially when it comes to Indiana. So it's I think we're in for a really good series, and it'll be a true test. Like, which one is better? Who's the better team?
Well, this is going to be a great series. I think it's going to be down to the wire. Easily could go 6 or 7. I don't foresee either team blowing out the other team the whole way through. I feel in my gut the one thing that really stuck out to me with the way the Knicks played is Tatum injury aside, the Knicks were the better defensive team against Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that they played Boston, I feel Indiana is similar to Boston. They may have a little more horses or bigger guys down low. They may have that than Boston did, especially with health wise. So Boston, I feel, got hit by the health bugs, but I also feel the Knicks defensively are a really good defensive team, and they really have shown that to be in the playoffs.
Yeah. I think it's going to come down to coaching. I think, with the Knicks, it's hard for me to say. And I'm trying not to be just, Debbie Downer about the Knicks. But I mean, a blowout game or two wouldn't surprise me against the Knicks because that's what they've been. That's kind of like their MO. They get punched and they come back, and they get punched and they get back up. And they make you think that the world is over, and then they surprise you. But even with that, I think it's going to come down to coaching. You saw in that Boston series, like Tatum goes out, they play that game 5 without Tatum, and the Knicks got their butts handed to them. And Thibodeau said, "Okay, I know what they're doing now. I know what their game plan is with Tatum, and this is how we're going to beat them." And sure enough, the Knicks came back and blew them out even worse. So I think you'll see, and Indiana's got a heck of a coach too, and Rick Carlisle. He'll complain about a lot of whistles as he always does. He'll stick up for his small market team, but man, I think it's going to be a really big coaching contest. The adjustments that they make game to game are going to be fascinating.
Do you have on defensively stopping Indiana? So Bridges is going to take Halliburton, right?
I think Bridges takes Halliburton because I think Anunoby's got to deal with Siakam. That's how I see it.
I really liked his defense against Boston,
and I do think it's funny you mentioned Cad being able to play the 5 now. I think it's that big man lineup that's going to be important for the Knicks in this series. They've got Miles Turner, who's a 5, but he's kind of a 4-5. And then they got Siakam, who's a 4. I think they're going to have to go as much as they can with Robinson at the 5 and Cat at the 4.
I think a couple keys that I noticed. I'm a little surprised that these teams only played each other 3 times in the regular season. Number one, when I look back at the regular season, I thought they played more than that, but silly me. In schedules in the regular season, I do feel the biggest thing is going to be defensive rebounding and offensive rebounding, and that's something the Knicks really overwhelmed Boston with in their wins.
That's a lot to do with Robinson.
So if they're not allowing Indiana to have second and third chances, which against the Cavs, this is where Indiana excelled. The Cavs couldn't get them off their side on the offensive end. So that to me is what I'm going to be noticing the first 2 or 3 games is who has the defensive rebounding edge, who has the offensive rebounding edge. It wouldn't surprise me is that's the whole story of who wins, who loses. Because if the Knicks are rebounding great, which when they do, they feel very unstoppable to me. Because they're getting lots more chances. They're driving to the hoop. They're getting
misses don't feel that damning.
Correct. And I think that was the key compared to last year where it was like one and done, which is very demoralizing. And I feel like there are teams that are not in the playoffs anymore because they were one and done. I'm kind of more sold, I think, on the Knicks than I believe you are. I did some research, obviously. Once the Knicks won, I looked at Indiana. I looked at the Knicks. Maybe I'm feeling it because they beat Boston, and I had Boston so heavily favored. And Indiana, I felt could beat the Cavs. That wasn't really a surprise to me with Indiana.
It was more the way they did it.
Yeah, they really haven't. The biggest thing is the Knicks have been through 2 6-game series. Mm-hmm. So they played 12 games versus Indiana's only played 10. And is that a big deal? I don't think so. This series doesn't start up here until I think this is the later one, actually. I believe this starts Wednesday.
That's right.
So in all reality, they get to rest some people, look at all the tape. They know each other. They faced each other last year. To your point, a lot of injuries. who would you say is the biggest key contributor for the Knicks on the offensive side that would just put you over the edge? I have a player in mind.
I mean, so I'm tempted to say Bridges because I feel like his play, maybe more than anybody over these last two series, has really inspired them because he's really been clutch. He's really hit those mid-range shots when they needed him. He's been a part of keeping them in games. He's been a part of those right in the center of those runs. But I'm going to go with the more obvious choice, and I'm going to say Brunson. The reason is, and maybe I'm going to eat crow for this, but I don't think Indiana has the guy to pester Brunson the way that Derek White, did even Brown did to a degree. I think the Celtics were a little bit better equipped to defend Brunson, and the Knicks still won. And so I'm kind of seeing that. I'm hoping maybe a little bit, but I'm expecting to see some more of those really high scoring Brunson games.
I think that the Stars get what they're supposed to get. The guy that would surprise me or that would just put it over the edge for the Knicks would be I'm looking at Hart as an individual that if he gives you 15 to 20 in a game, that becomes massive. Because you're not expecting him to give you 15, 20. He probably can get close to a triple-double in the series by getting 10 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. Like, he's just the bare minimum triple-double, which is great again. I think that's really – but it's when he scores and the keys to him being involved, because he's an excellent defender. This is the thing that I really enjoy about the Knicks. Art's an excellent defender. I think Bridges is an excellent defender. And I think they really make up for, what you have with Brunson, who you're trying to hide a little bit because he's not
right. He's not a good defender.
So, is this the year they get to the finals? I can tell you who the NBA is cheering for, because the NBA clearly would love to see New York in this thing.
Now that Boston's out,
I would agree with that. Maybe it's my fandom. Maybe it's hanging out with you. I really feel good about the Knicks in the series. And by really feel good, I mean advancing in 6 or 7 games. I don't feel like 4 or 5 by no means. And I agree with you. I think there are going to be some games where Indiana can clearly win by 20. But I also feel this is the first time I think the Knicks can also do that to Indiana.
I think they could. And I think it could be a back and forth for the first few games as they start to feel each other out. And then maybe as the series gets down to 6 or 7, the games are a little tighter, a little closer. I will say this, Indiana has a deep team. They play a lot of guys. They have a heck of a roster. There's a lot of guys that they can interchange, and that could really screw things up for the Knicks because, if the Knicks are used to playing one set of guys a certain way, and then all of a sudden you're looking at like 3 or 4 new faces out there, that could stifle them a little bit. I will say this too, the Knicks bench, and as short as it is, I'm talking really about Robinson and McBride. They were a big part of those, those 2 blowout wins against Boston to clinch the game, the 3rd and 4th wins. So I'd like to see some more of that too. Just you're not going to match Indiana's depth. You're just not going to do that. And maybe again, that's by design. New York's built for those, just to have this dominant five man, 5 starters and 6, 7, 8 off the bench, and that's it. And be used to playing a lot of minutes. We'll see which theory wins out.
Who do you have on the Indiana side that you're like, if this guy is playing really well, I'm really, really, really worried? And then before we get into our picks here.
Yeah. I think it's their unsung heroes. I think it's someone like Nembhard, getting really hot. It's like TJ McConnell coming off the bench and just causing all kinds of like havoc. I mean, he's like one of those guys like Hart or Caruso that like you hate him when he's not on your team, but if he's on your team, he's like your favorite player because he's such a tryhard. And that's what I'm worried about with them. I'm worried about those guys like stepping in and just you know, you expect Halliburton is at the very least going to have a few games where he's playing great. I mean, the jury's still out. I guess he's proved the doubters wrong to this point. So it's hard to pick against him at all. But Siakam's a good player. Miles Turner is really good. I'm going with those more low key guys.
You're going to have this is the problem with Indiana. I think if you pick one or two players, it's easy with the Knicks because they only play a core group of individuals. So if those core group of individuals aren't playing, you're like, oh, clearly they're not going to do it. Indiana can switch out some individuals and then suddenly they're right back in the game.
A guy like Nemhard could save them if the superstars, are not playing up to snuff.
So if you were to look at, for those that watched the dominance of the Western Conference with OKC, you're feeling Indiana has that, like what we talked about, the depth similar to OKC, where they can come at you in different waves. And if they're coming at you in different waves, then you're scared about them. I feel like for me, both the Knicks and Indiana have stolen games from their opponents.
Yep.
Games that I felt that they should not have won, they won. So when we get to game 3 of the series, which I believe will be probably next weekend, if the Knicks are down 0-2 or 1-1 and Indiana stole one of those games, that's going to make me really want to go with the team who's stealing the game.
Right.
Because that's how both teams have got here in all reality. The Knicks stole from Boston. They got here. In all reality, game 6 against Detroit, I can tell you the Knicks kind of stole that game from them. And then if I look at Indiana, they literally stole the series clincher against Milwaukee. That was a robbery of all robberies. And then I would say, I believe game 1 and 2 against Cleveland were both kind of in doubt. And then Indiana had the clutch moments to pull it out. Yeah. So the difference this year compared to last year is health. I think both teams are healthy. I pray that they stay healthy because, again, that would change the entire series, and especially for something God forbid happens to either of the stars. You want to see everybody healthy as we go into it. So getting into the picks, who do you feel and how long you think your series is going to be, and and give me a percent of your confidence. Are you 50-50? Are you 60-40? Are you 70-30? Sure. What do you have?
Well, I'm not gonna be the the glass half empty Knicks fan this time. They've proven that they can get up and take a punch. They've proven that even when they look abysmal and like they don't belong on the court of the team, that every game is a new game. And I mean, this whole playoff, almost every team is proven that the regular season don't matter. But so I'm gonna say I'm gonna pick the Knicks, but I'll say in 7 games. And I feel about 50-50 on that because, the Pacers winning in 6 or 7 wouldn't surprise me either.
I agree with you on the Knicks. 7's hard to commit to. I'd like to see it in 6, but that's a road game final. I mean, the Knicks have won 2 in the 6-game series.
I think I'm saying the Knicks because, as you alluded to, I think Boston was the better team to beat the last round, and the Knicks overcame them. And I think the Knicks are a little more battle tested. I don't think it's a big margin, but I think the Knicks are a little bit more comfortable in that end of game nitty gritty. That I'll use that as my rationale for saying the Knicks in 7.
And you're 50-50, which I can totally respect, because this is, again, the more I dove into this, I'm just like this. I feel like I would feel better. Give me to game 3, and then I'll feel really good. Or maybe I won't. I guess I don't know.
Depends how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's like I could seesaw back and forth. I like the Knicks because they're healthy. I also like the Knicks because I think Big Cat provides that kind of player down low that's reliable, and I feel like he's finding his footing here. I also like the Knicks because of the defense. I like Bridges a lot. I feel like not only has he found himself defensively, but to your point, offensively, his confidence is growing on the offensive side, and you can feel them as a team. I don't feel they're going to shrink in the moment, if that makes sense. So I will say Knicks in 6. And I'm going to be 65% confident in that. Okay. I would like to see them in the finals and again, I'm going to go back to whoever steals the game is going to matter the most. And for the Knicks, I won't know if they can steal a game till they're on Indiana's floor, because it's stealing the game at the other team's floor too. The Knicks stole 2 at Boston, and Indiana right away stole 2 against the Cavs, and it immediately put their back against the wall. And then now the other team has to go on the road and steal 2. So these first 2 games, I think, are critical for the Knicks, not just because I picked them, but I think if you're going to win the series, you have to show up at home. And I would be really shocked to see either team a letdown in the first game. You're playing too much. You're playing too much.
It's close in the first game. You think it could be a bloodbath?
I think this is going to be like each team is going to try to show what they are about.
Right off the bat.
I don't see a lot of like ticky-tack fouls. They're going to let them play. I want to see the best players rise to the top. I'd love to see, Brunson with 30, Halliburton with 30. I love to see that. Back and forth kind of game. So I feel like this series has that kind of a breath to it.
Agreed.
So, and then that would make it go into the finals. It would be really exciting because we're going to get a new champion.
Yes,
for sure.
I love that.
And again, I think going back to, what was it? I think it was, can't remember who won the championship before the Lakers did during the COVID series, but I think this is the 5th year we're going to have a brand new champion, 5th or 6th, and no repeats, which is good. So
yeah,
here we go.
That was Toronto, actually.
Oh, you're right. That's right. Toronto won. That blew up water.
We're past. I think you said the last episode. We are past the super teams, like the power trios or the big 3 era. Like this is nice. This is really refreshing. I mean, OKC is obviously a contender, and they're the number 1 contender right now. But this playoffs has proven you that the regular season does not always matter.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. So we have both of us Knicks. You have the Knicks in 7. I have the Knicks in 6. And again, I feel game 1 and game 2, I don't feel a blowout is happening. I feel it's going to be establishment. It'll be interesting to hear the coaches complain after game 1, who got fouls, who didn't get the fouls, the whole strategic mind game that you get. But if I'm the Knicks, especially Brunson, after listening to him and how bad he wants this, I will be utterly shocked to not see them try to take the reins of this. They say, like, this is our chance. That's the only up. I think this is the advantage. In all reality, this is the advantage I'm giving the Knicks. They've been around. These guys have played for a while. They're not as young as Indiana. They understand that you don't get these moments.
And that was my one other point I wanted to make too. Brunson and Hart, that they've been thinking about this matchup again since last summer, and they want it.
And I feel Indiana is young enough to believe that these moments happen more often than not. And what I've learned in my life, going all the way back to OKC with Westbrook and Harden and KD, I'm like, this is going to be an amazing team for never, as it just kind of went away. And I thought that team was going to be a super team forever.
One finals appearance.
Which, again, blew my mind, because after you watch it, you're like, this is going to be around forever. Understanding you're in a rare moment and that you need to go capture it is a big deal. It's a big deal. So I think the Knicks know that, and I hope that I'm betting that they take advantage of that moment over Indiana. Could I be wrong? Absolutely. Is this the only chance the Knicks have? No, I don't feel our window is completely closed. But golly, you broke open a door. You better break open the next door, in my opinion.
Keep going.
So let's, we're going to pause. We're done with the Eastern Conference, everyone. We're jumping over to the Western Conference, where OKC just basically slaughtered Denver all over the court. It was just felt like Denver ran out of gas. And with some injuries, again, the second 7-game series, we talked about that as well. You want to finish teams off. So OKC swept, And now they had a 7-game series, which I felt they learned a lot from, and they face off against Minnesota, who has beaten the Lakers, and they beat a Curry-less Golden State, both in 5. Both of us didn't feel great about their win against Golden State because we felt they didn't do enough of it. How do you see this series? Minnesota and OKC, and OKC obviously just coming off a 7-game win series. They start right off the bat here Tuesday. They're going to be the first game to go.
Yeah. Man, that last game we just saw, I think really tells you all you need about where OKC is at. I mean, Denver, I thought they really found themselves. I thought they really, really were discovering themselves again. They were rekindling the magic in this series. I thought, and even today they came out and I was like, okay, they got a game plan. I think they were up by 10 at one point, and it was obviously very early, but I was like, okay, they got a shot here. And OKC just settled in, and it was game over. I mean, there was nothing offensively or defensively that you were going to do. They were surgical with their offense, just players darting to the basket and cutting, and you just, poor Jokic probably thought he was on a farm somewhere with horses running everywhere, and he didn't know how to contain them. And again, I'm saying this while complimenting Denver, because I really thought this is all my lead up to say I don't think Minnesota gives OKC the matchup that Denver did. I don't think Minnesota, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope it goes 7. Part of me, Minnesota's got some guys that, or former Knicks. I would love to see, I would love to see them get some success. It would be a fun story if it was Knicks and Minnesota in the finals, but I just don't see it. I don't think it goes 7 games. I think OKC is just too much. They've not lost 2 games in a row, except for twice, I think, all season, and certainly not in the playoffs. So I don't see OKC losing 2 games in a row, which is what it would take to beat them.
Here's my takeaway from, and we've talked about this at length. OKC, I feel, has 2 teams that can beat you. They have that much depth, and the trade last year for them, picking up Caruso from Chicago, was a big deal for them. Getting that maturity, getting rid of a young player who has some talent and some questionable decision making in his personal life, but basically getting somebody who's got that kind of mental, I understand the game, I'm going to be in the right spot, I'm going to write the moves. He
understands his role,
but he has been such a calming presence on the court.
Mm-hmm.
He makes the right pass, the right shot, so on and so forth. Now we get to Minnesota, and the thing about Minnesota to me that's just, I don't know if this team knows what they are or what they aren't. Because the first game against Golden State was so disheartening because Golden State felt like they did everything they wanted and Minnesota didn't know what was going on.
Right.
The difference between Minnesota and Denver is that Minnesota runs their offense from a very high place with Edwards. And Edwards is excellent. So Edwards is not Murray. I think this is going to be hard for OKC to guard. I felt Denver were slow because they figured out Denver. They knew Joker was trying to run the offense as a point center, so they put a point guard on him, knowing he wasn't going to post up that and then take it in. So now you have a traditional matchup. You have a traditional 4, a traditional 5. OKC can go very short, which is what Golden State did and had a lot of success, especially in the first game. And I felt they played with them in the second game after the blowout, and then the third game, and then they were just too much. They didn't have enough. OKC's, I'm never going to say they never had enough. I think we can both agree on that. We're never going to look at this and say, oh, they just ran out of gas. I have a tough time picking Minnesota.
Yeah.
And I really like picking Minnesota against the Lakers, and I really like picking Minnesota against Golden State. And I don't know why I left that Golden State series with such a bad taste in my mouth, because they just ran them out of the building at the end of the day.
And I think it's probably because like you said, there were times where, Minnesota, and obviously they did their job. They won the series, in 5 games. But like there was that first game where it looked like Minnesota was, just lost. And man, that can happen so much against OKC. And I don't know if they have what it takes. And Edwards is going to need to be better than he was in.
Oh yes,
So Edwards is going to need to cement himself as a superstar.
you continue because he was not good against Golden State series.
He wasn't. I mean, like you said it. There were times where it looked like Randall was the best player on Minnesota, and love me some Julius Randle. But if Julius Randle is your best player, you're in trouble. Anthony Edwards, he has to really take that next step and show us, why he is, why he's the conspiracy theorists think he's Michael Jordan's long lost son. Like let me see him take over a game where no matter how good OKC's defense is, they've got no answer for Ant Edwards. That's how you could sneak in and steal a win from OKC just by, kind of like, I hate to always bring it back to the Knicks, but like there's games where Brunson just wills the Knicks to victory all by himself. And it's like games that they had no business winning, games that they were out of, and it's just Brunson time. I definitely think Edwards has that in him. I know he does. So I think I would love to see that. You made the point about the Knicks in Indiana, who's going to steal a game. If Minnesota can steal a game where you think like they have no business winning this and they could walk out of there, especially if it happens in Oklahoma, okay, now we got ourselves a series.
Here's my biggest hesitation, and I again looked at the research. Minnesota and then they went 2-2, but the one telling thing for me was OKC and Minnesota played a back-to-back. And OKC won the first one and Minnesota won the second one. You think, oh, okay, so Minnesota kind of showed themselves. Minnesota came back from a 28-point deficit in the fourth quarter. And that took them to overtime in that game. And I would look at that and I said, okay, well, OKC kind of does that. They did that with Denver. They did that and then they learned. And they played a very defensive game with Denver and they beat them in 2 very tough fourth quarters. I struggle with picking Minnesota because I just feel like OKC can overwhelm you. And even with Minnesota shoots really well at three-pointer, OKC can stick with you. But I also think that Minnesota's not going to have the same struggles that Denver did trying to get open looks. I feel they're going to get open opportunities more so than what Denver did, especially as Denver's offense became more and more just very predictable. It was very slow paced and OKC was all over them defensively. I have a tough time believing that Minnesota is going to be that way, even though Minnesota acts the slow paced offense sometimes.
Yeah, I could see that. To that point, and thinking about what Indiana had done as being kind of like that ascending team, I feel like that was Minnesota in a lot of ways in the West. Whereas, the Nuggets kind of stumbled to the finish line. They could have finished higher than they did, and they didn't. And yet, Minnesota seemed like they were figuring it out. But then again, looking at these last 2 series, like, I don't know. I think the Nuggets played the better. Oklahoma City played the tougher teams, right? Nuggets and maybe not.
Oh yeah, no, because Curry was injured. There's no doubt.
Yeah,
I mean, once Curry got injured, it wasn't even that Denver and Golden State were the same.
The Lakers were playing with a roster that was still yet to be assembled. Yes, they got Luka, but they got a big midseason trade that changed everything. The Nuggets played the Clippers and then they played OKC and they took them to 7 games. I don't know. I can't get that out of my head. I think, and I know that, Minnesota was the team that upset the Nuggets last year, right? They beat them, I guess.
So last year, Dallas upset OKC.
Yeah.
Minnesota upset the Denver Nuggets, and then they
Yeah.
faced each other, and then that's when Minnesota got ousted. I feel like Minnesota has more like they're more prepared. They
I
have
think we're
more
better than last
endurance.
year.
I agree with you. And I think that maybe the biases of the series they played is what's killing us here. Because neither of us look at the Knicks in Indiana and think, oh, they really didn't play anybody, or oh, they're not that good. I think once Curry got injured, and because of the way game one was going when Curry was in, so we never really got to see them play a Curry Golden State team and beat them.
Right.
So we were like, wow, if Curry's in this game and in the series, Golden State sweeps them. No, they don't. Minnesota would have probably beat them overall. They had a really bad game one.
I do think if Curry played, that Golden State would have gotten one more.
One or two.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that because I feel like that would have been a huge difference for Golden State. However, I'm just going to repeat what we said about putting your chips into horses or putting your chips into players that are much older. They have to stop talking about James and Curry. Like they were like, oh, Curry feels he has 2 more years in an open window. No, he doesn't. Everyone needs to stop that. LeBron feels he has more of an opportunity. No, he doesn't as well. Like, if you're going to be realistic about what you're seeing in the Western Conference, OKC is young and getting better, and you felt that in the Denver series. You felt them getting stronger and learning more about the playoffs. They've improved greatly. Minnesota is much better than last year. And you're going to tell me Houston's not going to be better next year than they were this year? I mean, I can go down the line in the Western Conference and say these teams are starting to get better. Curry's not getting younger. James isn't getting younger. They're not going to suddenly be able for a 7-game series be suddenly like, I'm ready to do this. I can win 16 games and get us to a championship against these younger guys. I just don't see it. So the good news is OKC and Minnesota, this could be something that happens often.
Yeah.
They're both young enough to be something.
Could be the start of a little rivalry.
I feel like the bias has kind of clouded my judgment. So watching a couple games will be a big deal. Like seeing where they're at after game 3, like when we're talking after these series that are 3 games in and we're like, hey, what are we seeing? Is Minnesota overwhelmed? Is OKC really finishing them? Did they really learn the lesson from Denver? Or are they, oh, I can't believe we beat Denver? Or we knew we couldn't beat Denver. I don't know how OKC is going to react to their first 7-game series, their first Western Conference final. This is Minnesota's second. So last year they came and they clearly weren't ready and they got outclassed the whole way. So I've always rested on that. Like Minnesota's ready to compete on a better level. I feel like maybe that's so my bias with the Knicks is they know how cherished these moments are, and that's why they're going to get over the hump. Maybe because I feel Minnesota is still very young, but I still feel like they worked really hard in the offseason to get here again. And not that OKC didn't. I mean, OKC certainly had a disappointment at the end of last year. And being the 1 seed again is really a big deal. So I think this is one of those things that you're going to have to steal the heart. I don't feel either of these teams are going to slow down. Like, no one's going to outrun the other team. Like, we're going to wear you out. You're going to have injuries. These teams are going to fight each other to the very end.
Yeah, they're tough. They're both really tough. They're both really conditioned. That's a great point. I don't think, whereas maybe, there were a few games here. I don't think maybe. I think for sure there were a few games where the Nuggets were just gassed by the end of the game. I think that Minnesota's got the chance to withstand some punishment from OKC and fight back a little. I don't see as many blowouts.
It's the problem that you just said that, and I just let out a big sigh. Because when you look at OKC, and what are they really, really good at? Just burying you.
Yeah.
I mean, just going on these 10-0, 15-0 runs. Like you've said, OKC's down by 20, it's not a big deal. They can come back.
Right.
I feel OKC is more equipped to do that than Minnesota. I feel both teams will have their runs. So let's go to the picks. Who do you have in this series, and what are the games, and why? I think we know the why, but like, who do you have?
I honestly, I was gonna say OKC in 5, and as we talked it out a little more, I'm like, you know what? I think we can give Minnesota a little bit more of a chance, and I'll say OKC in 6. I think OKC wins. I think, um, I think even though I'm saying OKC in 6, I think the series will feel closer than Denver did. I don't know. Today felt like kind of like an inevitability that OKC was winning, and even though it was 7, it felt a little bit like OKC was like playing with their food, and then finished them off when they could. So I think, I think what you're going to get is a more settled down OKC team, and I think they're going to face some really good moments from Minnesota, from Anthony Edwards, from Randall. But I think they win in 6.
I have a tough time seeing OKC finish a team on the road. A good team. I feel like they've struggled on the road. They struggled in Game 6 to close out Denver when I felt they could have.
Yeah.
And they really struggled at that moment. So I feel it's Minnesota in 6 or OKC in 7. I can't see it going 5. I'll be blown away if OKC finishes them in 5. Then OKC learned something from Denver, and they have figured out how to fine tune their engine. I don't feel that's the case. I could be wrong, but I see OKC winning this in 7. I don't know if I want Minnesota in 6, but I'm not going to be disheartened about any of these teams in the finals. If you're going to say, or who are you saddest about losing? I wouldn't be sad about any of these teams losing. Whoever gets into the finals is going to be a great finals.
See, and I would be more surprised I think I'd be more surprised by it going 7 than if OKC won in 5, because I really do believe that we're on the cusp of seeing like an all-time legendary team in OKC.
You're not wrong. So let's just look at the odds now that we've kind of picked our teams. OKC is currently favored to win the championship of the final 4 teams. They're a minus 185. The Knicks are second at a plus 490. The Minnesota Timberwolves are a plus 600, and Indiana is a plus 800. So they do have the Knicks favored to beat Indiana, and they obviously have OKC to win the whole thing. I don't disagree with that based on what we've witnessed. But if I was a betting man, I'd put $1,000 on all of them.
If you had that kind of money to throw around.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, I could see all of these teams winning.
They could.
There's not a team in the Final Four that I'm like last year when we went to the Final Four, Minnesota was tired. Dallas had some injuries. Boston looked really good and fresh. Indiana just went into Boston and got murdered. It was clear to everyone Boston was just a thoroughbred.
Right.
OKC, because they just went on a 7-game series, doesn't feel like that. If they win in 5 and then win in 5, I'm not floored. I'm surprised. I'm not floored. But I feel like OKC is not. And if they do that, all credit to Denver, because they learned something with Denver and they just decided they're better than this and they're going to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And they are a team that learns. So they've been doing it all year. They've been finding new ways and fun ways to just demoralize teams. I'm hoping for a good series. I'm hoping for a close series. But I think OKC is the team to beat.
I think it's hard to say how they're not the team to beat.
Exactly.
So just looking through the champions the last couple of years, so like we said, we got a brand new one. Boston Celtics obviously beat the Dallas Mavericks and Luka. Denver beat Miami. Miami had that surprise run. They even made it to the finals. Both of those were 4-1. Then Golden State beat Boston 4-2. Milwaukee beat the Suns 4-2 in a backdoor sweep that I love so often. The Lakers beat the Heat 4-2. And then Toronto beat Golden State 4-2. So we've had 2 5-game finals. I will tell you one thing that I would bet on, we're not going to get a 5-game series finals. I would be floored if Indiana, the Knicks, OKC, or Minnesota, when they faced each other, it's 5 or less games.
You would expect trading some blows in those series.
I could see 4-2, 7-game series would be great. I don't foresee that, but so right now our picks are pretty clear. I'm gonna say OKC in 7. You have OKC in 6. I have the Knicks in 6, and you have the Knicks in 7. I have the Knicks winning on the road because I feel they can do that. You have the Knicks in 7 because just you feel they can take the opportunity and run with it. We will be joining you again after a couple games here into the weekend and see how our picks are, how everyone's doing, how it all looks at.
How we're holding up.
The one thing I will be cheering for is no injuries. That Tatum injury is awful. I hated seeing that. I knew the Knicks had that game in the bag. They were going to go up 3-1. But the fact that he's going to be out for as long as he is, it's just terrible. So hopefully everyone's healthy. We got a bunch of young guys here, want long careers, and they're all trying to win their in all reality, their first, I believe. I don't think there's a whole lot of people on the stage here that have won a ring. If I look at it, Indiana's superstar, the Knicks superstars, the Minnesota, and then also OKC. No one has any hardware.
And shout out to the Knicks front office, who has former players on all 3 of the other teams. who are rotation players.
Congratulations to the Knicks for helping all these teams get to the Final Four that we have today.
I mean, they've been doing something right over these last few years.
You're not wrong about that. Well, everybody, as always, we thank you for joining the Hoop and the Harm. Please subscribe and please like our channel. We'd love to hear your comments. As always, this is Nolan, the Knicks fan, and he is excited as all get out. And if this podcast leads to a Knicks championship, I think we'll be doing this for the rest of eternity.
We can't stop.
Because even before the year, if you were to say the Knicks in the championship game, everyone would be like, wow, they're in the NBA finals. That's a miracle. But now it feels you can taste it almost. So keep being fans, everybody, and enjoy the teams. These runs are fantastic, and the crowds have been great too. Minnesota, OKC, the Knicks were off. I mean, that crowd was sensational, and Indiana as well. And we didn't even get into all the hatred between Indiana and the Knicks and the fact that Reggie Miller is going to be announcing the games in the Eastern Conference, which is even better. So there's so much to talk about with all that bent up anger for each other as teams.
A lot of frustration.
Let them play, refs. Let them play. Thanks, everybody, for your time. As always, I am Brendan, and that is Nolan. Bye now.
Have a good one.